In the hours immediately after the Texas shooting, State Attorney General Ken Paxton had a grim warning. This would not be the last shooting at a church, and he suggested parishioners should arm themselves.
We've had shootings at churches for forever. This is going to happen again, and so we need people in churches, either professional security or at least arming some of the parishioners or the congregation so that they can respond if something like this, when something like this happens again.
Attorney General Paxton is with us now from Houston, Texas. Mr. Paxton, thank you for being with us. I know this is a really difficult time for everybody there, and for so many in Texas especially, and we genuinely hope that you guys are doing okay and coping with what has been a tragedy. I also just want to say the questions I'm going to ask you, I do so respectfully, mindful that this is a difficult moment. So I want to go first about the interview you did with Fox News on Sunday. Firstly, do you stand by what you said? Because there has been criticism, in particular that it was defeatist, essentially a variation of the NRA's argument that only a good guy with a gun can stop a bad guy with a gun.
Well, first of all, thank you for being concerned about our state. Obviously, this is a community that is devastated because so many people knew people in the church either who were injured or who were killed. And so there's probably very few people in that town that haven't been impacted. As far as predicting that this likely happens again, I just think that it's inevitable. We have a large country. We have a lot of people that like this, that we never know how they're going to respond. And no matter how many first responders we have, they can't all be in the right place at the right time. And so I think it's critical that churches and congregations prepare for the future and prepare themselves for this potentially happening again and be ready.
Yeah. That NRA argument about a good guy with a gun, it has been challenged on a number of occasions. Most recently, there were researchers at Stanford who did a study, and part of it I want to read to you. In 21 of 160 active shooter situations reviewed in a recent FBI report, unarmed citizens successfully stopped the bad guy. Typically when he was trying to reload. This underscores once again the value of limiting the size of high-capacity magazines, as the former federal assault weapon ban had done. So would it be worth looking at that study and the others which have similar findings?
Sure, I'm always open to looking at studies, but if you look at just what happened in this case, I mean, this guy apparently went into this church with the intention of killing everybody in the church. He was successful at doing that with 26. No one tried to stop him until he had these guys from the outside come in, and he got apparently shot by one of them. And likely these two, what I would call heroes, mitigated the possibility of more people dying. And so I think this is a good example of what I'm talking about. We want people who have the ability to fight back immediately and not wait for first responders who might be 20 or 30 minutes away in a rural area.
I guess this is sort of an anecdotal evidence as opposed to empirical evidence of what is the bigger picture, because again, the suggestion from the NRA and others who often oppose gun reform is that more guns mean actually less crime. And again, that study from Stanford, it actually found violent crime in right-to-carry states was estimated to be 13 to 15% higher over a period of 10 years than it would have been had the state not adopted the law. And again, not pertaining to this particular circumstance, but if there is an opportunity here to look at gun laws, other countries who have imposed tougher gun laws after a mass shooting, they haven't seen any more mass shootings. So why would the US be any different?
So, look, first of all, I've seen studies that show different things than what you're saying. Certainly, places like Chicago have strict gun laws and have, one of the higher incidences of murder. So I don't know, you can throw one study at me, there are many others that show something different. But I do think if you look at this particular case, if we, say, had a more strict gun law in this case, I don't think a guy like this who potentially, obviously is ignoring laws about murder is going to be restricted by some new gun law. I don't think it would have changed anything. What would have changed something is if somebody had been in that building who could have shot back immediately. That just seems like common sense to me.
Well, there does seem to be a problem with the background checks. This is what the FBI said a little earlier.
For the 4 purchases that he made, the NICS system did their required checks. and there was no prohibitive information in the systems that we checked that say that he could not have purchased that firearm. There are 3 checks that are conducted. One is of NCIC, one is a criminal history check, and another one is an indices on the NICS system itself. So in all 3 of those databases, there was not information that we would have said was prohibitive for that man to get the firearm.
You know, many who are in favor of gun rights and oppose gun reform, you know, their argument is enforce the laws which are already on the books. Would this be a chance to make sure that one of those laws is actually working properly? I mean, tougher background checks is supported by 90% of the U.S. population.
Well, yeah, and I think the failure came. The Air Force didn't report the information to the right place, and so that information was in the database. But it does go back to my point, which is even with this provision in place, I don't think it would have affected whether this guy from coming in. He could have gotten his weapons in other places. There's always the black market. I just don't think somebody like this who is willing to violate a law that relates to the killing of innocent life is going to follow some gun law that we pass.
Fine, I just want to wrap up here because I guess the argument is you never know who is actually a law-abiding gun owner one moment and then who is going to snap the next and have access to these high-capacity weapons.
Exactly, and I don't disagree with that. But that's why you want people that are armed. Most people are law-abiding. We can't know who's going to snap, but when they do, we can at least have other people there ready to respond. If somebody snaps, they're not going to care about the law. They're going to go get a gun anyway. And so why not have people there that haven't snapped, who, like in this congregation, and as you know, we had 2 people who actually mitigated by shooting the shooter and potentially saving 20 to 25 lives.
Okay, Mr. Paxton, as always, thank you so much. Really good to speak with you, and our thoughts are with you right now.
We really appreciate that. Thank you.